Why, hello. If you're here listening to this, chances are you had no choice, or else you probably would not be listening to this right now. My name is Greg Hamby with the Tree Nerds, represent OO, partner with Coleman, represent OO. All right, so now that I've made a fool of myself, let's get started. What is the difference between an FOA and an FOB? Now, really, when it comes to trim codes, the A and the B mean a lot of different things. When it comes to removal codes, the A and the B are fairly straightforward. So let's guide through the wonkiness of this A and B trim code. So an FOA would be anything that could cross-phase the facility. A good rule of thumb is under 4 dBH. And an FOB is anything that could damage the facility. Good rule of thumb, over 4 dBH size and branches. Now, the size and branch thing really isn't printed in any sort of PG&E document, but at the end of the day, it's the only thing that makes sense. They're not worried about stuff damaging the facility for guy wire, poles, any of that stuff under 4 dBH. So that's a really good rule of thumb to use. It's hard to visualize from the ground, but you just have to do your best. Make your best guesstimatation, if you would. So the answer to this one is A, and we are good to move on. The next one, when do you use an R code removal? All right, we're going to go down the rabbit hole on this one. So the answer is for all trees that are being removed for a compliance issue. But the answer to that really does not educate you on the different scenarios and whatnot, so let's dive into it. Overhang, conifer tree, cedar, we have to take off a third of the tree in order to get that correct compliance. Well, that has to be an R code removal at that point because it is a compliance issue. And that's what we're going to keep coming back to is we are trimming that tree to compliance, but a third of that tree will kill it, so we must remove it. R code. Bam! Mic drop. It's done. Let's move on to the next situation. Now, we have a tree that's growing up into the lines over and over and over again. We're trimming it. We're trimming it. Every time we trim it, it costs money. It is actually more economical to remove that tree or code removal because it is compliance. I will not mic drop that one. That one doesn't get me too excited. Now, this one is where we're going to go down the rabbit hole. Now, compliance in EVM is always going to be 4 feet. Anywhere where it's high fire threat district, it's going to be 4 feet, and everywhere we're doing EVM will be high fire threat district. So compliance in this situation is going to be anything that encroaches in this 4-foot bubble. Okay, once it encroaches that 4-foot bubble, then we got to beat it back 12 feet. Okay, and get that nice big clearance there that you're seeing right here. So that is the 12-foot radial. You will hear me talk about a lot right here on both ends, and that 12 feet starts right at the middle. Okay, so we got to get that full 12 feet. Now, if a stem, let's say this stem right here, was over a few feet, that would be within that 12-foot bubble. Now, if it was over a few feet, this foliage would also be in the 4-foot overhang area. So it would be a work tree. Now, if it is a work tree and the stem is within 12, it must be removed. R-class removal. Compliance related, bro, because of that compliance. So that must happen. If the stem, let's say the entire tree was leaning and the stem is coming in here and it's attaching down at the bottom. So the stem is within 12 feet to the ground, but it's not encroaching on this 12-foot radial, then it could just be trimmed because that stem is not within the 12-foot radial. That is the 12-foot removal stem radial that you'll hear talked about. Foliage at that point really doesn't matter. Let's say we have a tree that's leaning, it's outside the 12, foliage is within the 4. We cut that foliage back to 12, and we don't have to remove the tree. Awesome. It's going to be really embarrassing if I get one wrong. This is the difference between an R4C dash removal 4A plus treat and an R4D dash removal dash 4 dash B. I think I have got one too many dashes in there, but it works. Plus treat. Okay, so really what it comes down to with this is a C and a D is a lot like an A and a B when it comes to removals. And removals, one thing I like about them, one is we remove them, we're done. Excellent. The second thing is they're very consistent when it comes to their A, B, C's, and D's. So an A is always going to be less than a brush unit. A B is always going to be more than a brush unit. A C is always going to be a treat with less than a brush unit. A D is always going to be a treat removal with more than a brush unit. So really, if you put them into a spreadsheet or something along those lines, the A and the C would roll together because they're less than a brush unit. A being that it is less than a brush unit, no treat. C being that it is less than a brush unit with a treat. B is going to be more than a brush unit without a treat. D is going to be more than a brush unit with a treat. Pretty straightforward when you think of it that way. No big deal. So let's find it on here. I have it on randomized, so I can't really just know the answer. Let's see here. All right. So C is going to be less than a brush unit. Oh, I almost tricked. Oh, nope, it's on there. Treat. And then D is going to be for removal with a treat R4 class or greater with 1 brush unit of chipping. When do you use an FP removal code? Well, that is a facility protect for anybody who was wondering that. If you weren't, no big deal. I'm not offended or crying or anything about it. But I would like you to know it is a facility protect removal code. Right, so you would use a facility protect removal code when the tree fails the TAT. So an abate score gets an F class. Do not abate score, compliance related removal. That is really the big difference there. FP will always be failed TAT. Okay, it gets an abate score, it has to be FP removed. If it gets a do not abate and it needs to be removed, then that's a compliance related removal, and that is an R class. So we're going to put right here an FP removal code is always going to be a tree that gets an abate score on the TAT. That is correct. How do you mark a trim tree? Elliot. What am I going to do with you in this question? So EVM has been yellow every year since its conception around 2018 approximately, late 2018. Definitely. So it's always been yellow. So Elliot, sir, it is a yellow dot. Not a dot, but a yellow dot. Don't hate me. Hate the guys that don't change the color on EVM for 3 years, bro. If you got that question wrong, you are fired. I'm just joking. What is the skirt trim? Okay. Well, Lissandro actually got me on this one. I had a written version of this test, and he said a trim that resembles, a skirt. Fairly right. I gave him credit for that, even though I knew he didn't know the real definition on this tree. So, a skirt trim, we are going to trim scaffold branches on an X-current tree, typically used on a palm tree. Awesome. The chainsaw guard, I thought was a really good fake answer. I don't know if it got you guys. A brush unit dimension, once it has been cut and piled. Now, what a brush unit is would be you cut the brush, you pile it. A brush unit would be the dimensions of that pile. Now, one thing I'll say here, a lot of times a brush unit, if you really need to cut it, chances are it's reached the primary, approximately. So we have to take it down. And one brush unit's not really a 6.5 by 6.5 by 6.5 area, which is the correct answer, by the way. Regardless of if Joe Bumpus wanted to fight me on it or not, I could show it to you in a PG&E document there, Mr. Joe freaking Bumpus. Let me do it real quick just because I am that petty. Bam. Description. Brush unit refers to standing brush 6.5 by 6.5 by 6.5. Cube equals 10 cubic yards. Gonna drop that mic again on that one there, Joe Bumpus. So the answer is C. Now, a lot of times a brush unit will not actually be that dimension. So if we're already going to pay somebody for a 6.5 by 6.5 by 6.5, let's make it a 6.5 by 6.5 and a 6.5. So we have that one pesky brush unit that is encroaching that line. We drop that tree and we mark some of the, we drop that brush unit and we mark some of the brush units around it. Now, the brush units around it might not be reaching the guy wire, might not be reaching, really primaries, this, that, the other, anything, that's fine. Really what we're doing is we're taking out growth in the future that could reach those primaries, and they're going to get paid the same no matter what, so we might as well give them the full amount of work. So I would sign up that brush unit that is out of compliance, and then I would sign up enough brush units around it that are, second, third, fourth height to create a 6.5 by 6.5 by 6.5 area. Excellent. What is a sec? S-E-C for the childish people that giggle when I say it out loud. Strain trim. Now a sec strain trim is going to be for secondary lines, is what the definition is. But we don't really use it for that for the most part, because if we just say a secondary trim for this line, the tree cruisers can do whatever they want. Chances are they won't get compliance. The majority of the stuff I use this on, because we only really patrol secondary lines if it's an underbuild or it's on collector, and it's usually not on collector. I use this for strain and abrasion for guy wire for the most part. There's very few times that I actually have to use that on a secondary. If you do, great. If not, then you would have to use that on the polar guy wire for strain and abrasion. Now, with that, it takes a lot to strain and abrase a pole or a guy wire. Those things are freaking sturdy, dude. So if you're just signing up this, that, the other for strain and abrasion, I assure you you're wrong on that subject. So definitely make sure we're looking at that. In order to sign anything up for the guy wire poles, and I know this is on a later question, but we'll dive in right now, it must have one stem that is at least 4 dBH. If it's less than 4 dBH, it's a brush unit. And we don't guard poles and guy wires for brush units, bro. Get with the freaking program already. I'm just joking. So, use for compliance of lines, use for strain of abrasion on secondary lines, polar guy wire. We're going to use that one, B. Used for the strain and abrasion of secondary line, pole, or guy wire. But definitely it's got to be something hefty if it's for polar guy wire. We're talking an R2 leaning on that thing, something along those lines. You could really tell it's strained and abrased. All right, let's do it. So this one is going to be, the basic dimensions of each R class. So we're going to start out with brush unit. That is going to be 1 to 3.9. Woo, I did it. All right, R1, that is going to be 4 to 11.9. On R2, that is going to be 12 to 23.9. On R3, 24 to 35.9. And then on R4, it's going to be 36 plus dBH. I said it wrong recently. It was really embarrassing. You should have seen it. It was sad. I whipped myself when I got home. That's how angry I was. Calm your thoughts, Evan. It wasn't like that. What is the difference between an FAA and an FAB? All right. So this is where we really come back to the wonkiness of the trim codes, because removals are very consistent with A's and B's. A is going to be less than a brush unit. B is going to be more than a brush unit. C is going to be treat with less than a brush unit. D is going to be more than a brush unit with a treat. Okay, very straightforward across the board all the time. Now trims, they really vary a lot. So an FAA and an FAB. Okay, lots of trickery in these questions. An FAA is going to be a minor trim. They're both minor trims, for those of you that got fooled. FAA minor trim, FAB minor trim. Now, this is where the consistency of the A and the B actually falls through for the trimming as well. An FAA in this case is a minor trim, less than a third of the tree, that is less than a brush unit. An FAB is a minor trim again, less than a brush unit, with less than a third of the tree with more than a brush unit. I apologize, you guys. You're going to yammer on this long without making one mistake. Forgive me, because I will not retake this over that mistake. So, I got minor. A is less. B is mo. Let's do it. Next. Ooh, 11 of 20, and I haven't even screwed it up yet. Super pumped right now. What is the difference between an R3A and an R3B removal? Well, if you listen to my ramblings from earlier, you already know, bro. It's no big deal. An A is going to be less than a brush unit, R3 class removal. And then a B is going to be more than a brush unit, R3 class removal. Now, what is the R for? It's for compliance, bro. You know that. Jeez. Gosh. Should have that down by now, dude. All right. I really was wordy with these answers on this one. This must have been like one of the first questions I made, so I really spelled it out. I will simplify this because that is far too much information. Let me read this one out for a minute, you guys. Has nothing to do with branches, so it's not that one. Less than a brush unit. Treatments in that one. Nope, it's not that. Man, that one was hard, you guys, with the wording. I will be fixing that. Some of the wording's bad, which a lot of the wording is bad. My grammar is atrocious. I speak much better than I write. But that will be simplified because it is way overcomplicated. When DBHing a tree, you would do it on the low side of the hill. Well, for those of you who recently got the speech about doing it on the low side of the hill, I have to let you know that that is very wrong. It would always be on the high side of the hill. And I don't know if this is the reason, but this is the reason I do it, is because at the end of the day, PG&E is our client. And when we do it on the high side of the hill, it costs them less money because the smaller the DBH, the less of a payment it is. Now, is that the reason why we do it? I don't know, but that's how I justify it because my brain needs answers in order to comply. So, this is false. It needs to be done on the high side of the hill. What is a slope trim? A lot of you are angry at me for this one. I know it. If you've worked routine, Kevin, Les, those guys are like, nah, it's freaking L-shaped bench cut, bro. For anybody who has not worked routine, you're probably like, dude, we don't use this. But regardless, you're on EVM right now, you might be routine the next day, you might be SEMA the next day. You gotta know your trim codes, bro. Don't blame me. Okay, so it is going to be an L-shaped bench cut. So if you've ever seen a tree, let's say the tree is in the shape of a triangle at the top, very apically dominant, let's say a cedar. So it is out of compliance because it's too close to the line. They would basically take an L and cut that L-shaped bench out in order to get that compliance. Later down the line, when I have more time to dedicate to all of this, January 1st, when I'm free and 100% Coleman's property, I will be taking a lot of screenshots out in the field, diving more into this stuff. For right now, you guys are going to have to settle. Okay. Did I answer that? Okay, I did. I got to get 100%. Oh, stunt! Because if I don't, it'll be... I won't forgive myself. Main 2 reasons it is important to get the DBH correct when creating a point on collector. So the 2 main things I care about, I worked for Mowbray's Tree Service for a long time, and nothing pissed us off more. We would be like, PIs, you guys suck, and we'd throw eggs at them because they would get the R-Class wrong, and on a unit price project, the R-Class is the payment, and it's extremely important to the tree crews. Tree crews love to be profitable, and they hate you when they're not profitable. So please, 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 please do not guess the DBH. Take the 10 seconds it takes to be accurate. So, on this one, we are going to go on the unit price. Projects of our class determines the pay of the job and to help locate the tree. Location of the tree is the second one. Pay is always the most important to me, personally. I'll walk around all day if I get paid a ton for it. I'm fine with that. All right, explain a side trim. How far up does it go and stop being a side trim and become an overhang? All right, so a side trim is going to come up to line level. The overhang is going to be overhanging the lines. Now, a very simplistic view of that but it is going to be the best view. A side trim is on the side, bro. An overhang is overhanging. End of story. 100%. Should have really turned this off randomized and like known all the answers going into it. I almost tricked myself there. Are there any real answers to this one? Oh my gosh, you guys, let's see your side trim, trimming the bottom of the 12-foot radial trim bubble up to the level of conductor. That sounds legit. Overhang starts at the top of the conductor's green branches, usually within 15 feet of the top of the primaries. Yeah, sweet. That's the one. Next. What two markings are on a removal tree? Now, this is a real thinker. It is an X and a DBH. Thought I might get some people with an R with the DBH because they're like, R means removal. I have fun trying to trick everyone, whether it's successful or not. Explain the difference between a top and a top direct. So, most of the time, a top is going to be used to miss the facility, especially with EBM. Let's say it's an abate tree. Homeowner says, no, you're not taking my tree. So, we top it to miss. Now, if you do that, you have to rerun the TAT and let that be clear. And we will cover that in compliance and whatnot later on. But if you ever top a tree to miss the lines, you're not done there, dude. The tree has to be cut, and then you have to re-tap that tree. And when you re-tap that tree, you get to the question of, will this strike the facility? You say, F no, bro. And you close that thing out, you know? So, if you do top it to miss, that is something you have to do or it's going to show up on the error report. So it's not that easy. So only do that if you really know you're laser focused. You will catch this. You will make it right in the end. So a top most of the time is used for that. That's where we're blowing the top out of the tree. We're not usually too concerned with where that top comes from. If it's over a third, it needs to be an R-class removal. I think we all know that at this point. If you don't, no big deal, bro. Watch this thing like 20 times. I assure you I'll say R-class removal like 5,000 times during those. Now, a top direct is going to be where we're topping the tree, but we're actually topping it where there's going to be a lateral branch, and we're going to try and make that tree grow away from the lines. Is that successful? It definitely can be. It was done year in, year out, just like routine stuff. It is not going to happen overnight, not on the first cut. They're going to have to continuously keep that up. But that is the difference. With the top, we're blowing that top out. We're making it miss. With the top direct, we're trying to direct that growth outside of the compliance zone by cutting it to a lateral branch. Bam. Remove the top of an X current tree. Top direct. Remove the top of a D current tree, attempting to direct the growth away from the conductors. I really screwed you with that D, huh? Sounded a little wrong. Answer D. Really screwed you on that one. All right. What is the difference between a major and a minor trim? Well, pretty straightforward there, you guys. Major trim is over a third of the tree. Now, Greg, you said that over a third of the tree could kill the tree. Most definitely. Over a third of the tree is definitely going to be pretty fatal to most conifers. Oaks, trees like that can tolerate it better. It's always best not to do a major trim, but a lot of times in the situation where the homeowner says, no, not my tree, I'll chain myself to it, then you have to do a major in order to make it miss because it's that close, there's that much of the tree. Explain it to the homeowner. Be like, dude, if we do this, well, I guess that sounded like a lady. Say, ma'am, if we do this, it could kill your tree. Make it very clear, put that in the notes, let everybody know that you had that conversation with them, and then that tree needs to be checked later on, and then you're good to go. So, the difference between a major and a minor trim. A major is going to be over a third of the tree. A minor is going to be less than a third of the tree. I'm so close. Question 19, and I don't think I've screwed it up. We're about to find out. 25 minutes in. I don't know why I do this voice when I make these videos, but deal with it. What is the difference between an overhang and an FOA? Now, this is a weird one, you guys. This is a weird one. Many different areas do it different ways. That is not how it should be. Every area should be the exact same. Unfortunately, every area decides they're going to make up their own rules along the way, and some things get a bit screwy. I'm sure you know this already. So, on this one, now Cedar Creek, or all of North Valley, an overhang is going to be within 15 feet of the primaries for overhang, and an FOA, FOB will be over 15 feet off the primary and above. FOA being cross-phase of facility, under 4 dBH, and then an FOB would be damaging the facility over 4 dBH. Okay, but in other areas, an overhang is a green tree and an FOA is a dead tree that could cross phase, and an FOB is a dead tree that could break the facility. So there is a bit of difference there. So in order to make this question jive and not have the universe explode, I kind of mix the two together to make it to where no matter what area you're in is correct. With ones like this, if you're the PM and you're on this question, reach out to your VPM. It's always good to reach out to the VPM and say, hey, I know they do this several different ways in several different areas. What is your preference? Because we want to cater to you because you are our client, good sir. Or ma'am. Either way. Sorry, Lauren. Or ma'am. So, in this situation, I jived the two together. So, let's run through this real quick. I will tell you when I find it. I'm not a good reader. Oh, I found it. So it's going to be C. So overhang is to trim green branches overhanging the lines. Now in some areas, that is how they want it. It says usually within 15 feet of the top of the conductor. Now that covers the North Valley as well, and I'm sure other areas that run by the whole within 15 feet of the primaries is an overhang. Over 15 feet is an FOA. FOA cross-phasing the facility under 4 dBH. FOB damaging the facility over 4 dBH. And that covers both of them. So there we go. Awesome. Last one, and I don't think I've screwed it up yet. But if I hit grade and I get a 95, I will not be happy. That didn't sound too bad. I was going to say something way worse, but then I was like, I probably shouldn't. What is the difference between an F3C-FS-R3A plus treat and an F3D FS-R3B plus treat? Man, that's a zinger right there. So, we have went over this a couple times, so it's no big deal. I think we even went over it in our class form. Can't really remember. That was like 20 questions ago, bro. Not made of questions, okay? So, in this right here, really the difference is that A is going to be less than a brush unit. That B is going to be more than a brush unit. And that is something for the F classes to look for, is the F classes are F3C, but then they have the R3A, and that A represents less than a brush unit, plus treat means it's treatable. So it's got the C for treat, it's got the A for less than a brush unit, and the treat code. With this D, the D would be the same as the B, okay, but it's a treat, and then over here we have that B saying it's over a brush unit with a treat. So under a brush unit with treat, over a brush unit with treat. Pretty straightforward. Let's try and figure out which one it is real quick and get that 100%. It's not low work difficulty. If I got you with that, for shame, bro. For shame. More low work difficulty. You could tell I was tired by the time I made this one. Just make them all work difficulty fake questions. Ooh, I probably got you guys with this. There are two different types of treatments for different types of trees. Yeah, it's all bullshit. It is going to be less than a brush unit with treat code for the A, AC, and it is going to be the DB for more than a brush unit with the treat code. I think I did it. This is the moment of truth. There we go. 100%! Woo! There we go. We'll zoom in on it. Probably shouldn't celebrate that much because I made the freaking test. But I was talking nonstop while I was reading. And reading is not very easy for me. Talking is very easy for me. I assure you that's why I never shut up about anything. Alright, you guys. So this should run you through. I'm going to make one of these ridiculous videos for each and every test I give you. So trust me, if you're suffering with the test, I assure you I'll be suffering to try and yammer on for 30 freaking minutes straight on whatever subject it is. And I got your back. And like I said in that other video, you guys, this is about figuring out where you need help and getting you that help. It is not about crushing it with that 100% like I did. I'm not expecting that, you guys. I'm not expecting you to be as excellent as I am, okay? But I am expecting you guys to be honest to yourself, to Coleman, and to myself, and that way we can elevate you to that point you need to get to in order to crush it. All right, you guys, this has been a Tree Nerds, Trims, and Removals covering it. I guess I don't have any better words for that. I think I've used up all of my words in the last 31 minutes and 25 seconds. So you guys have a fantastic day. January 1st, I will be free, and you will be seeing a ton of me. Ask me any questions you want. I'm never afraid of questions. Let's do it. Have a fantastic night.